Well, hello. Yes, it's been a bit of a break. We haven't done a programme for months. And this is actually the weekend review. It's slightly different because I've got a co-host. We're doing this because, well, you're retired now.
Yes.
And we've left it a little bit so you can now speak completely free. Not that you probably held back much anyway.
Well, did I have a hold back?
So really, it's going to be two grumpy old men and a guest sometimes or whatever. And Ralph Peake is with us. Ralph, nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Before we start, I guess we should just have a quick catch-up on you.
Ooh.
Life after MHK, good,
There
bad,
is-
indifferent?
There is life after MHK.
Yes.
Absolutely. You do get sort of wrapped up in a lot of things when you're a member of the House of Keys, a member of Tynwald. Absolutely loving it. Really enjoyed my time in Tynwald in the House of Keys. Learned so much. It's really allowed me to grow as a person, and I'm really bringing that forward now and using what I've learned to the good, really, still of the island.
Difference is, of course, you retired, you didn't get
Yeah, that's
re-elected.
right,
So it must be a shock anyway, wasn't it? To some degree.
It was a shock, but I've really embraced it and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm really looking back on what I learned and actually using that for the benefit of
It's fair to say now
charities
in
I
the
work.
new job you've got, your work is where your heart is, isn't it, really?
Well, absolutely. As you know, we spent 5 years next to each other, so you know what I was involved with, and I really did enjoy that, and I put the effort in then. I always felt the role of an MHK gave you that opportunity to do good for the island. I really did, and it enabled you then to actually open some doors and able to learn and actually put some effort and motivation and momentum behind some of these great charities and volunteer work there is. And I really enjoyed that. The two areas I was really keen on was mental health and the climate. And they're two things that I'm still involved with now. So, yeah, I'm grateful.
I suppose your book about cheese is still floating around Keys. And
Yes.
Sorry, a book about cheese?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yeah, well, it wasn't really my book, but I did refer to it a number of times, and it's really a fable to really help people understand that change is good, change is needed. Basically, if you take the cheese away from somebody, so who moved my cheese, you then have to go and seek new cheese. So it's like life, really. If you are there, you can substitute the cheese for money, or you can substitute the cheese for ambition or success, or even your home life. But if it changes, you then need to go and source a new income or a new revenue or a new avenue in life. And so it's not about being rooted to the spot with fear. It's about embracing all those tools that you've learned throughout your life, putting those together and actually going to seek a new avenue or new cheese.
What's the support system like when you don't get re-elected, sort of thing? I mean,
well,
you can combine
I'm
the
retired. So,
Yeah, I know.
so but I don't know what Ralph would have to describe better.
Yeah, I think, there is a financial support for when you don't get re-elected. If you've been in for over a term and you're under the age of 60, then you do get a payment, a 6-monthly payment on your basic. So there is that, and I must admit that does allow you to think about what you actually want to do. It wasn't that long ago when that wasn't available, and people really did sort of struggle to come, if you like, to come to terms with all that. I want to say all that cotton wool around you, but you know what I mean. There's the whole infrastructure around being a member of the House of Keys and Tynwald, which really sort of takes over a lot of your life. I can only imagine it being a bit like the army. Now, Chris, you've had the opportunity to be in both those things, but you really have got that structure around you, so it just really is relentless day in, day out, and that just stops. It just stops overnight. And so that financial support really does help. It allows you to step back, get your life in order, and really focus on what you want to do.
And I hope as well it would help those considering in the future to stand, that they realise there is some help if and when the day comes that they don't get re-elected.
Yeah.
I mean, it costs how much in an election campaign? You're allowed up to 4,000, aren't you, to put into it?
It's about 2,400
2,000,
plus the one.
You get free postal things, and you get
for one
yeah.
postal vote, one postal distribution.
Yeah. Is it still really there for something that maybe a lot of people will never be able to aspire to because of that sort of?
To be honest, I think that's the least of your concerns. I think fine if
It's time,
trying
isn't it,
to find £2,500 is the least of your worries. It really does affect your home life. Absolutely, it really is. You are on call 7 days. I don't want to say 24/7 because no one could do that. You've got to sleep, but it is certainly a 7-day-a-week job. Now that's not so bad for myself and Chris, who ran their own businesses. It's a bit like that anyway, but I think that is a big shock to some people.
It's the time that's required in our system for people to spend getting known around the constituency, and there's no substitute for knocking on doors and being interrogated by the electorate, and that does take a deal of time to do properly.
It does, but government work, I mean, I was really grateful to be in the Treasury for 5 years and really enjoyed that because that really sort of suits me. I was able to really understand the structure of government, where the money came from, where the money goes to, and really the whole culture. That is a massive amount of time. The papers are released on a Friday, and you've got the weekend to do because you're then back in keys, we're getting prepared on the Monday for keys on the Tuesday, and you've got Treasury on the Wednesday. So it literally, you've got that Friday to Monday to really get all your papers in order for Treasury.
Well, of course, that's changed slightly, hasn't it, in terms of considering papers for Tynwald because of the introduction of this 6-week notice thing, which I'm not sure is actually working very well. It seems to be slowing things down. So I wonder where the balance is.
Yeah, well, on paper, it was definitely an improvement. So things were meant to have time to be assessed. And then they're pushing them through without saying they haven't had the 6 weeks diligence or whatever you want to call it.
I think there's a slow cook issues, but there's the other areas where you have to react pretty quickly. And being able to put everything together 6 weeks beforehand, I think in some circumstances is inadequate. And I think we saw a bit of a trip up when it came to the island plan. An awful lot of work went into that in this administration, more than has ever been the case before, I think. More time was given, and yet members said, oh no, we need now more time. And I think that put a bit of a question mark around this 6-week thing. So we'll only see. I think the members will decide for themselves in time whether it's appropriate or it needs adjustment.
I mean, you were a minister, then you decided to get back out into the backbenches. You never got there, but did you have any regrets on that, not being
no regrets at all.
That
wasn't my choice.
No, I know, but would you, obviously this time round, if you got in, you would have been something, wouldn't you?
No, it's no regrets at all. I mean, I did what I thought was right throughout my 6.5 years as an MHK. It didn't suit some people, I appreciate that, but I was very focused and very stuck to my principles and values about what I believed in, and that's exactly what I did. I don't see Tynwald as a soap opera. I think some people do. Some people think it's all about creating headlines. That's not me,
Would you do it again? I mean, different maybe for you. You decided to stand down. But
I've entered the old fart.
Had to have that word in there, didn't we?
Well, every time.
Yeah.
No, it's time for me to be retired, semi-retired. I've still got my business, of course.
Yeah. And Ralph, would you recommend to people to have a go and put the head above the parapet regardless?
I would definitely recommend people to have a go, to think about it and actually have a go. Absolutely. If everyone could be an MHK, I think that would be a really good thing, because you'd actually then to see what it's like on the inside and what actually goes on. It's incredible to see the nonsense that is on the outside and what's spoken about it. It's incredible, really.
Hang on, the nonsense. Explain.
Yeah, because you haven't actually got an idea about what work goes on the inside, and it all boils down in some respects to a headline, and that's got like the tip of the iceberg. It's not really the body of work. It's not really where the decisions are made and the momentum goes.
Anyway, let's move on.
Well, we're going to do. Well, this will be one session because we can do what we want. So this is why. This is what I love about this thing. We've got 3 other subjects to talk about, you see, but this one never really, until we just started talking about it, was fascinating for me. I mean, how did you rate the chief minister you're working under as well? Because with all the COVID and that sort of thing, and you're still there. So I want but you're saying it's all headlines and everything. But what was going on behind the scenes? Something different to what we were seeing as a public, or what?
No, I didn't say it was all headlines.
Yeah.
I just said that sometimes some people just look at the headlines, and sometimes people just create headlines, and sometimes people look at the headlines. That's all I said. That absolutely is not just the case that it's just headlines.
It's a soundbite mentality that you're thinking.
Unfortunately, people think the headline is actually the reality, and it's not.
Really?
And so,
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So did you rate everything? I mean, you must have. I'm trying to get to a point that it looks all smooth to most people on the outside. What's going on? And you both were backbenchers, and maybe you didn't because you were backbenchers. It was different. I don't know.
Right.
So what was going on behind the scenes?
The confusion, I believe, is in the public space of what actually is going on the inside. I think you originally asked me what I thought of the Chief Minister at the last election, and certainly I supported Alfred Cannon, who became the Treasury Minister. I was open about that, and I'm personally delighted that he's actually now current Chief Minister.
Yeah.
Absolutely delighted.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed my time, 5 years in Treasury. I enjoyed my time working with them. I found them to be very motivating, very fair, good leadership qualities. I think the islands has got someone now who's the best at the time.
Chris?
I think they talk about long COVID, don't they? In terms of my situation and my answer to you, I think I've got sort of long bureaucracy. It's the long look back for me. If I wanted to try and capture it in one or two phrases, would be the belief the public have that MHKs elected are fully in charge of what's happening. In reality, the bureaucracy itself is a lot more powerful, and departments consider themselves, to some degree, even today, somewhat close to autocracies. And that really sat contrary to what I believe, that when you got elected, you played an important part in trying to interpret what the people of the Isle of Man want and translate it into action. And in reality, the system of government has its own mind departmentally, and my strong view was always that strategic thinking and operational work had to be separated, and I consistently said that from 2013, 2014 onwards. It's why I went back in the last time to try to get that message over. Failed.
Failed?
Failed, yeah. We're still stuck with a system that I would humbly say does not work the way it should. And I think that people too often see MHKs, sometimes when they go as far as being a minister, actually end up being an apologist for the department, when in fact that's not actually their role. And so separating strategic thinking off from operational delivery remains the big challenge.
Yeah. Just wrap it up. Yeah. Anything?
Yeah, I think I did actually hear Minister Hooper talk the other day, and I think he's got quite a good idea on separating out the operations, as Chris was alluding to there, separate the operations and the political side of things. And I think he's got it. I think he came up with the statements, I can't remember exact words, but basically about the politician isn't here to deal with your operational issues. And that's, I thought that was a good thing to actually say. Yeah. I think because in the past, I think that has been clouded, and I think people, as Chris said, would think that MHK was able to do things for them, which MHK can't.
I think the concern I'm starting to get with regard to Manx Care and DHSC, though, it's born out of a concern that, and I do support the principle. I stood behind the whole idea and still do. Where I've developed a concern is that the DHSC element of it remains an over large bureaucracy and looks to me from the outside, and I may not be totally accurate here, it gives the impression of continuing to grow when in fact it should be shrinking and working out how to, as it were, consider the work of Manx Care and translate it into a meaningful process politically.
So you were actually on that Health and Transformational Board, weren't you? Yeah. So is there around about 50 or 60 people left in the department? Was that always the intention?
Well, I fear that under the previous CEO of DHSC, Catherine Magson, there was a tendency, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but I can be, now I'm outside. A tendency, I think, to grow a bureaucracy beneath her so that there was always somebody somewhere who could be held responsible if things went askew, because Catherine herself was simply an administrator. She wasn't a medic or had a background in that area at all.
We're going to talk about that, aren't we, anyway?
Yeah.
And this tribunal. So there we go. The next section was even that we're going to do. Thank you very much indeed. Do stay with us. Our weekend review continues.